no accidental bites. I've got some of the larger animals over here to feed, and David's going to be taking care of the rays and the smaller guys. Now the first thing you'll notice when the food goes into the water is that they go crazy at the smell of it and start thrashing about, bloodthirsty, feeding frenzy, right? Not so much, right? Number one myth about sharks, guys, is that they're non-stop killing, eating machines. You've all heard that. Shark Week likes to make us believe it, but that's really not true at all. And the number one reason for that is because sharks are cold-blooded. Does anybody here know what cold-blooded means? You know, young man? Tell me. You know?
Cold-blooded. It takes a second.
It does, yes. Right, it has to do with their body temperature. It's cold, is that what you said?
Cold.
Yep, that's exactly right, more or less. Cold-blooded means that their blood is not warmed by their body. Their blood is the temperature of their environment. So right now this tank is about 74 degrees, and all of these guys, their blood temperature is about 74 degrees. So because they don't use calories to keep their bodies warm like we do and like other mammals do, they barely need to eat anything at all. Here at the museum, we feed them 3 times a week. And in wild, they eat about half as much. So they eat very little and they need very little. Number one, like I said, because they don't have to keep their bodies warm. And number two, they're very efficient digesters. So they'll eat this meal today, and in about 24 to 48 hours, it will be completely digested. They can digest bone, scales, teeth, almost everything they will digest and use, and all that comes out is a tiny wisp. You might notice there's an absence of shark poop in this tank. If you were lucky enough to see our snake exhibit, you'll notice that there's not an absence of poop over there. But sharks barely waste any of their food, so they don't have to eat nearly as much. They're also not very high energy animals. You don't see, especially small sharks like this, swimming around a lot, swimming around really fast. Most of the time is spent sitting on the bottom. Now that's another myth that you guys may have heard, is that sharks can't breathe if they're not moving. That's not true. Although it is easier for them to breathe while they're moving, they can just open their mouth and cruise through the water, and the water will run right over their gills, and they don't actually have to do anything, as opposed to taking the water in and forcefully pumping it over the gills. Now something else kind of interesting about sharks. Does anybody know how sharks have babies? Babies? Do you know? Do you know? No, that's okay. Do you know, young lady? How they have babies? Yes, how they reproduce. They have them alive. That is half right. Does anybody have the other half of that answer? The other half of that answer is eggs. Sharks actually both have live birth and have eggs. Species like our bamboo sharks here, they lay eggs just like a bird might. They leave them, they don't tend the nest, and the sharks are on their own when they're born. Animals like our smooth-hound shark over there, and the big guys like the white sharks, the blue sharks, the mako sharks, they actually have live birth. And it's a true live birth with a placenta and an umbilical cord. So if you were to flip our smooth-hound over, she'd actually have a belly button where she was attached to her mother. It's very cool and very interesting, kind of neat connection between us and them. Now there is a third way that sharks have babies, which is kind of in between, and our rays use this way. They have eggs inside their body, they hatch inside, and the babies come out, and it seems like a live birth, but it's not really a true live birth. So sharks use all different kinds of methods to have babies, and that's one of the reasons that they've been so successful. It's believed that sharks have been around for approximately 400 to 450 million years on Earth, and they've remained almost completely unchanged. They fill the same niche, they have the same body form, they have the same diet as they did 400 million years ago. So it's really a successful little life that they're living. So I'm getting ready to feed another food here. It's called krill. Has anybody ever heard of krill? Yeah? I think Nemo talks about it. So if you've seen Nemo, you know about krill. It's frozen into this little sheet, but it's a small shrimp-like organism, very tiny, one of the smallest organisms that lives in the ocean. And interestingly enough, it's fed on by some of the largest animals. Does anybody know what the largest shark still with us today is?
Megalodon.
Nope, still with